Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with a last little bit, probably for this year, of Toku news. Who knows, there's still a little bit time left in the year, so I feel like we'll probably get some sort of news worth doing something about just because I just said that. But, you know, it's probably our last concrete scans. Again, I probably just jinxed it. But we got Ryusoulger stuff and Geo stuff. The Ryusoulger stuff isn't anything too huge. In fact, there's really not any new significant information from them, just kind of more even more clear shots of the suits and stuff, and they look really cool. Like, there's some really good close-ups of the helmet, some good lineup shots, some little bit better looks at the Zords and stuff, mainly T-Rex, I think just primarily T-Rex, but like it all looks like really cool. Like, the more I see it, the more I like it. It shows off a little bit more of how the armor thing worked. Like, that little tidbit of info came out like between one of my videos. I think I brought it up in the Too Many Dinos video, but basically it's kind of similar to Armed On, where they use it and it actually gives them an armor and like a little distinct like weapony thing, very reminiscent of like the Armed On from Kishiryu and stuff like that. I think it looks really cool, and especially since they're night themed, it really, you know, kind of reinforces that. Like, it makes me wish that they had more armor to their suit given the whole night bit. But so that looked really cool. And then the only really significant thing, that's a good way to put it, Dawson, is like they show a little bit how the morpher works. Like, when you're using it, like the little kind of night armor visor goes up over the dino design, which I think is a super cool touch given the two themes. A little more clear look at the keys or whatever, but yeah, no new concrete information, just some really cool pictures to check out. As far as the Geo stuff, this isn't technically like unknown information, but it's like more clear information about something we knew about, which is, you know, Kamen Rider Woz, you know, Woz from the show. He's in the Finer Things Club, and he's gonna get his own rider form, and he's going to use future riders, mysterious riders that appear. We knew about this before. We saw some early toy scans of it, of like, oh, here's these future riders, and then here is Woz's version of their forms, like, you know, his like Woz armor versions of those, and like, we're gonna see both in the show. We're gonna see Woz and his forms and like full-on suits for these guys, which people are apparently surprised by, but like, it wouldn't make sense for them to draw this up to not use it. Like, what would they just, like, hey, here's a sketch of what this guy looks like, but we're never gonna make the suit. Primarily because you can tell that these guys are using like X-Aid, you know, past rider suit parts, like that they've clearly fashioned into these new riders. And even though, you know, it would be cool to have a full-on new suit design, you know, it's obviously more cost-effective, and I think this idea is super cool, and like kind of a smart way to extend the life of the show, because, you know, after a certain point, you kind of run out of material and actors that will come back for the previous series, so I think that's like kind of a cool way to extend everything, but also to, you know, have this unique idea, which I think is super cool, because, you know, Omageo so far in the future that like past, you know, riders we've seen, so you would think, oh, there's probably riders in between there and here. So I think that's really neat. But from what it sounds like, some of like the translation says like the Kamen Riders from the future suddenly appear, coming from like unknown futures and stuff. The ones they highlight here are Shinobi and Quiz. Quiz is the guy with the question mark face. Shinobi's like, well, you know, a shinobi. And then a different, you know, another Woz is appearing in the timeline as well, and then speaking of another, every time I think of the word another now, I think of like a monstrous version. And, you know, we know stuff that he uses, the Beyond Driver, and Miracle Ride watches, it says, and he's also, again, a member of the Finer Things Club. He actually got in, unlike Andy. You know, he's got his weapon, which is kind of a multiple change weapon, which looks pretty decent. He's like so green, like, I don't mean like inexperienced, but I mean like he looks like a Flygon rider. That's what he reminds me of. And then it shows off the way he can use his, you know, Shinobi armor, just like, I almost said build, just like Geo and, what's his name, Gates can use armor of riders we know about. So you got the Shinobi armor, and you got the Quiz armor, which we know of, and then, we have the actual riders we're going to see. So Shinobi's going to appear to Sogo in a dream. He's kind of, you know, a fast ninja-y character, you can tell by the name. And again, if you look really closely at it, you can see like the parts that they use from older X-Aid based suits. But I still think it's pretty neat. You know, I think they did a pretty good job of making it seem distinct, and I think that's just a cool bit. And he's apparently, I from the year 2022. I don't think I said that already. I remember looking right at it when I started talking and I thought that I said it, but just in case I didn't. Then you have the Intelligent Kamen Rider Quiz from the year 2040. And it says here that Gates and Tsuyomi aren't aware of these other riders that are appearing in their timeline, which I think is interesting. Like I mentioned in that first scan, or when I was going over that first scan, that it says they suddenly appear. And so I think that's interesting and a cool way to go about it. Because, like, obviously that's quite a ways off, both 2022 and 2040. But I think that if they were to work these guys in the narrative in a way that's like, you know, something that's going on with what everybody's doing with the time travel, like messing around, basically creates these riders, kind of gives them out so that in 2040 they don't have to do, you know, Kamen Rider Quiz as the main series. It would be cool though if they remembered that, like, if Rider goes that long, to do a bit about that. But I think that's interesting. I kind of, because I like the idea of like, oh, these are future Kamen Riders we haven't seen yet. I think that's super cool. But also I like the idea of them having it maybe be some sort of consequence of either the Time Jacker's meddling, or Gio's meddling, or Woz's meddling, or all of their meddling together created this, or just in general, I think the idea that, you know, the future people don't know about these riders, except for Woz, because he's using them, so he knows about it in some form, I assume. I think that's super cool, and it kind of adds a little bit more mystique to it, so I think they're kind of cool on a couple different levels. Then we have some not so exciting stuff. I mean, it's not that exciting to me, like, you know, well, I almost said Woz. Gio using the decayed form to access the Taja door form. We do have another, I think I mentioned this, but we do have another rider versions of these future riders too, which is super cool. So we get like 3 things for each of them. You get their regular suit, like their normal everyday suit, and then you have their armor form for Woz, and then another riders, which I think is super cool. I think it's a really just neat idea overall. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's, you know, kind of retreading over certain information and stuff like that. But that's the primary information that I think is the most interesting, is these future riders. I'm really looking forward to getting that. I think it's going to help separate Gio as its own series too, which I think is super cool. It will probably still be kind of timey-wimey and messy, where they kind of have this like messy way of following the rules. But I think that's a really cool way to go about it. I'm really interested to see how these are tackled, the reason for their appearance, if they would ever try to do anything with them in the future. Because I remember mentioning when I first went over this news that it would be cool if we got like a V-Cinema or a little special or something about what these riders' future was like, but I think that'll be dependent on now how they are incorporated in this. Also, I think a lot of people have mentioned that we know like of Kamen Rider Aqua, who was presented during the Oz series as a rider from the future, and a lot of people want to see something be done with that, given that Woz uses future rider powers and Aqua is like a rider of the future. I really hope that happens, whether it's in the series or again in like a movie or something. I think that would be really cool, and that would give them something even more to do during Gio's run, is to do, you know, an Aqua form, get to see Aqua, another Aqua. I think that would just be really neat to capitalize on some lore you've already been introduced to. But yeah, that's about it. As always, thanks for watching. If there's any more news that hits before the end of the year, I'll be sure to do a video for it. Same thing with, well, you know, after the beginning of the year. But anyway, until next time, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell to get the notifications for all my videos. So next time, Dawson Rider, signing out.